Hi, Paul. We're going to talk about something that most people, they shy away from, including, we're seeing a lot of stuff in Congress and they're afraid to say aliens. They say NHI, which, dolphins are also NHI. It's a broad term. It's non-committal. I'm very committed to the word alien. I like it. I understand that there are different variances.
With its sort of knee-jerk extraterrestrial connotation?
No. Okay. Just in that it's not human.
Okay, cool.
And, I'm aware of the ultra-terrestrial, interdimensional, future us. That's all aliens to me,
cool.
And that's kind of how I want to set this up. I wanted to ask you, first of all, maybe what's your take? So you got a little bit of a different take on the alien situation. Maybe brief us a little bit on your take.
Okay, and you talked about Congress for a second. I don't give a rat's about disclosure. I think, especially the U.S. government, is a bad faith, corrupt central actor in the domains of UFOs, psychedelics, and cryptocurrency. I think they've squandered their leadership privilege. What I believe in is exposure, sort of better, more fruitful discussions between experiencers of aliens, DMT, ghosts, etc., and scientists. And together they can have productive conversations and move the needle, and the government can hop on the caboose if they want to come along, but they're not driving the train.
Yeah, I love that so much. I think it's reflective of a lot of people's sentiment, and especially with the history of, obviously, your family. You guys are no stranger to working closely with the government, and that sort of, you being jaded from that whole side of things makes a lot of sense.
Jaded is a good word. My father was led around by the nose for decades by a government. We tend to think of a government as a monolithic block, acting rationally and consistently.
Together.
Right. Nothing could be further from the truth. There are warring fiefdoms inside the government working at active cross purposes in all these fields. And, the U.S. government has no incentive to disclose anything. And I'm doing a talk today, and I'm going to do a role play where I ask everybody in the audience, and I've done this before, to pretend that they are the Air Force generals, and we're at a conclave of the top leadership of the United States Air Force, and I give my impassioned Jack Nicholson type, rant about why I signed up for this man's Air Force and all that. Okay, now who's going to disclose this stuff? And nobody does. When you adopt that mindset that we're in the catbird seat, that we may have, working on reverse engineering propulsion systems and all these things, we're not going to give them up because some pasty-faced pencil pusher on Capitol Hill deigns to tell me I need to. No, you need me on that wall, right?
Yeah.
So that's the mindset I think we're fighting against. And I just think that we have so many now observers. A lot of the stigma has washed away.
Yeah.
We have better materials to capture images that we can make advances and just bring the government along.
Beautiful. Love it. Something that fascinates me endlessly is the idea of our interaction with these beings through non-physical or physical or altered states or whatever that is.
Sure.
To you, if I were to ask you, there's a variant amount of different entities that have come up in UFO lore. Which one to you sticks out as sort of your favorite out of all the entities and all the existences across all dimensions? Is it, I know you're a fan of DMT, so is it like these little jokers, or is it the surgeons, or what is your go-to favorite sort of alien?
What a lovely question. I don't know if I have a favorite. I like how you sort of defined how you see the word alien as basically just being beyond our current understanding. I don't tend to gravitate to extraterrestrial biological beings coming here. Big universe, how would they know? Even though we've been beaming out episodes of I Love Lucy low these many decades, not easy to find us. If they come here, why aren't they more overt? Sure, they may be doing long-term hybridization programs. Doesn't really ring true to me. I tend to think more of like interdimensional. And the reason I started doing DMT after maybe having done lots of drugs in my younger days is that I see it as perhaps not a hallucinogenic psychedelic drug, but a plant medicine technology that allows us access. So if I had to pick a favorite, I would say, maybe the machine elves in the DMT realm, because I have a feeling that aliens as we know them are probably AI. They've gone through their own Kurzweilian singularity probably millions of years more advanced than us, and then can perhaps instantiate as needed in biological or synthetic form, and that DMT denizens, so to speak, are in turn billions of years more advanced than us. And I asked them during a DMT session, are you what we feel to be aliens and UFOs? And the answer I got back, trillions of miles of synapses firing, was, we can't explain in a way that you would understand.
That's powerful, but also convenient.
Well, and it didn't feel to me like deflecting.
Sure.
But it felt to me like, okay, if an ant is looking at a Chevrolet transmission, what are they going to understand? Even if that you start explaining.
There's no point.
And so, that's not no. And it just seems to me, a lot of people, especially at this conference, my good friends, are working on disclosure. They got that covered. So I'm going the end around, the exposure, to see if I can't do the Andrew Gallimorian route of going to the source.
Yeah.
And not trying
Not
to find
focusing
them
on the desktop.
Yeah, not focusing on where they are, but where they're going to be. And I think that's where they are. That's where they're going to be, and where we're going to be, if we can survive this transition.
Yeah. I'm
less afraid about the future of artificial intelligence than the present of human stupidity. We might not make it until a singularity.
That's really well put. Is there a case you can cite, perhaps from a story that someone's told you, or perhaps from your own experience, that you would be able to articulate perhaps some type of interaction with one of the species, or the species, namely the sort of surgical elves, or the ones, the machinists? Is there anything that comes to mind, like a story that you might have?
That's a difficult thing to index and to sort of surgically strike at.
Is there one that sticks out in your mind as more prevalent when you think of this entity? Like, whoa, this interaction to me was, and I'm not saying high conviction that it happened, I'm saying it was kind of mind-blowing and cool, like, as a story.
I'm just sorry, being flooded, and I have the DMT stutter, and being flooded with images of my own, and I'm a techno shaman who facilitates ceremonies. One that I found very interesting, we were filming an episode of an Australian TV show. They're doing like a different psychedelic each episode. I'm the DMT guy. And so we had a husband and wife doing DMT, and the wife was crying, deep sobbing the whole time. And for those of us who've done psychedelics, that's not necessarily bad. This is not fun and games. It's more like work. It could be therapy. And so afterwards, we asked her on camera, what did you experience? And this wasn't so much an other entity story, but I'm going to loop it back around. She said that she saw the creation of her soul and felt the attendant fear her not yet instantiated soul felt about assuming human form. And that helped her understand some of her legacy fears that she carries with her today. So, and I think also it's kind of a blurry line between others and ourselves when you have these experiences. You know?
It's subjective.
Yeah. And, I'll mention one other story. The first time I did DMT and I asked that question, I felt that I saw the creators of the very fabric of the universe. And I saw the universe, the new material being bubbled up. And I saw the people around almost like a cauldron, like a galactic cauldron.
What do they look like, these people? Do
I
you have like a clear image, or like a hazy image? Or
I don't, Chris. I don't see so much. I feel them.
Right.
And I felt them around there, and I'm feeling, wow, this is the work of the universe. And the other feeling I had was, I'm on the other side of the universe, but I'm home. And they were welcoming me.
Felt familiar.
And then later that night, when I circle back to DMT a lot, I did another session, and this time it was the universe coming into me and healing me of emotional trauma. And I'm trying to receive it as much as I can. 2 weeks later, do it again, and it said to me, welcome back, Paul. Let's resume where we left off last time. So the universe remembered me by name and remembered our last appointment.
Like a therapy session.
Yeah, so I find these things, these types of experiences, again, it seems to, for me, blur the lines between others and ourselves, and whether those others are consistent, permanent state entities, or if they may meld into others.
Sure.
So that's why I kind of hesitated when you asked me that.
Absolutely, and I think it's a very nebulous sort of area anyway.
That's a good one, yeah.
On a conviction level, how high is your conviction that these entities are quote-unquote real? Like they are the way that they present themselves, like they are these things? Or are they just fabrications in your subconscious to make you understand what they are? Or are they actually real?
So there's sort of two elements to beyond. And I do think there's enough evidence in different fields to suggest, let's say, meta-terrestrials, that there's something beyond our current awareness, something beyond super secret military capabilities. And I think is an other. And you ask if they're real, so I think there's an objective reality to them. But there was kind of a nuance that I want to tease out what you said about, are they real in how they appear? That may not be the case. They may instantiate. And I have a hunch that a lot of things that we sort of silo as different phenomena may be essentially the same. There may be this root level of Hertakian consciousness that manifests in different ways for different reasons, based on the cultural mores of the time and things like that. But I think they are real. And I don't know why they instantiate in different ways, or when, or to whom, or why, what they're doing. I like interdimensional better than extraterrestrial because that answers the questions of how they would know about us and why they might care. Clearly, whoever they are, and I think there could be different races, getting back to your question about favorites, they're not here with purely hostile intent, because almost overwhelmingly in all the accounts, they're more powerful than us, and they would have killed us if that was their intent. So at worst, they're here to manipulate us in some way.
Mm-hmm. And at best, they're benevolent.
Or us.